Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I was just enjoying some SpongeBob. You know, a bunch of SpongeBob games have been made over the years, and I've played a couple of them. Do you think you can guess which one's my favorite? Point and click games are some of my favorite types of games to play. There's something about the simplistic nature of the games that I find so much fun. While people were busy playing Grand Theft Auto and The Sims, I was playing Putt Putt, Freddy Fish, and my all-time favorite point and click game, SpongeBob Squarepants Employee of the Month. I can't tell you how many times I played this game as a kid. Of all the SpongeBob licensed games, the point and click ones have to be the most overlooked. Compared to the console ones, these were low quality and really only existed to have SpongeBob games on the PC. Now, I've played a few of the SpongeBob point and click games, and I think they have some merit. Fortunately, I still have my old CDs to play on, so since I have a lot of free time during this isolation, I thought I might replay them. And can I just say how much of a hassle it was to get these games running on my computer? One game worked perfectly fine, another wouldn't work on my game capture settings, and the last one refused to work on my desktop, so I had to pull out my external disk drive and play it on my laptop. There was just no easy way of playing these old CD-ROM games. Going by release date, we'll start with Employee of the Month, my personal favorite. In this game, SpongeBob gets tickets to go to Neptune's paradise and must complete various tasks so that he can get a ride to the park. The game is definitely of a lower quality, but it doesn't look bad. The backgrounds look show accurate and the models look pretty good considering they're made from scratch. The cutscenes are probably the only thing that didn't age that well, although I do find them charming. The game is split into 4 chapters where you visit a different location. While half the locations are callbacks to the show, the other half are completely new and original. I can tell a lot of care was put into these new locations, and they didn't have to considering this was a side game for the PC. In typical point and click fashion, you have to go around collecting items and giving them to people in order to progress. Employee of the Month adds a layer of depth by implementing a dialogue tree. When talking to a character, you are given a list of things to say. Each option gives you a clue as to what you need to do next, as well as some general context. While you could just simply skip through the dialogue, I think staying for the many character interactions is worth it. This game script is so very SpongeBob-esque. The humor, the characters, it's practically screaming early SpongeBob. It's almost like an extended episode of the show, that's how good it is. A thing that became blatantly obvious when replaying was that the game was pretty short. I finished it in about 2 hours, but as a kid it would take me literal days. The game is a decent challenge for kids, but a breeze for adults. Next up is the SpongeBob Squarepants movie game, a tie-in for the 2004 SpongeBob movie. This game is basically an abridged retelling of the movie. King Neptune's crown is stolen and SpongeBob and Patrick have to get it back. The game is seemingly made on the same engine as Employee of the Month, which might explain why you'll find some reused assets. Both this game and the next recycle character models, backgrounds, and music tracks. If you happen to really like slide guitar music, you're in luck because it shows up a lot. I'm sure they didn't have a huge budget when making the game, so it makes sense they'd reuse assets they already have. And while assets are reused, a good portion of the assets are made from the ground up. This game takes what Employee of the Month did and pushes it a step farther. The way they have written the story allows for multiple characters to be playable. While you'll be playing as SpongeBob for the majority, certain levels will let you play as Plankton, Patrick, or Princess Mindy. This isn't a revolutionary change, but it adds that little bit of depth. Occasionally they'll spice up the gameplay with a minigame. This can range from a flying minigame with Plankton to a guitar minigame with SpongeBob. They don't show up as often as I'd like, but they are a nice change of pace. With the story being pretty linear, exploration is limited. Instead of having an entire map to explore, you'll usually be restricted to a certain area. The smaller levels do tend to make puzzle solving easier, but I do prefer the larger levels. That being said, the locations you explore are pretty cool. They have the same show-accurate detail as Employee of the Month, which is always a plus side. The game takes liberties with the middle portion of the movie, and creates entirely new locations and scenarios. These are probably my favorite parts of the game because they're so unexpected and new. You've got SpongeBob solving a mystery in a hotel and then joining a revolution against a chiropractor. These events don't really affect the plot, but they're just fun additions. The bulk of the story is told through these storybook cutscenes, which show shots from the movie. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the 3D cutscenes from the first game, however dated they were. But this way of storytelling is a good way of conveying important bits of information in a short span of time. Regarding my playtime, this took me about 3 hours to complete. Not bad if you ask me. And lastly, we have SpongeBob Squarepants Lights, Camera, Pants. In this game, SpongeBob has to go around Bikini Bottom, recruiting people to be a part of the new adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. This game is a collectathon in a sense. You need to fill up the cast list in order to make the show. You also have a props list, but it's not that important. Getting people cast is the main objective, and you do that by completing tasks. Along with the normal point and click puzzles, you'll also have some mini games. Coming from the SpongeBob movie game, this is a step in the right direction. The point and click elements are nicely balanced with the mini games. It's just a shame that the mini games are pretty bland. This game lends itself to be more explorative, which I like. You have all of Bikini Bottom to explore, which is another right step coming from the SpongeBob movie. The game is rather straightforward when it comes to dialogue. You have fewer dialogue options when talking to characters, and a lot of the time you'll be forced into mandatory cutscenes. This is disappointing, as you don't really get the fun character interaction from the other games. Whenever you complete a task, sometimes you get a short little cutscene. These cutscenes are really stiff and awkward. I much rather prefer the more lively 3D cutscenes of the first game. This game took me the longest to complete, with my total playtime coming around to 4 hours. But the reason it took me this long wasn't because the game was particularly hard, but the game didn't make it clear what to do next. At one point you're supposed to find nuts for Sandy, but I checked all over the map and couldn't find them. Turns out they were in Sandy's tree dome. The first place I checked, mind you. You have to walk towards the front of the tree, which I didn't know was a separate area because the text didn't indicate that. I thought I had explored all of the tree dome, but that wasn't the case. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. The game doesn't make it clear which things are important and which things are part of the scenery. The game doesn't have a definitive ending. Once you recruit every character and collect every prop, that's it. You get access to the movie maker halfway through the game, so the only benefit of recruiting every character is having more options when making your episode. You'll be able to replay all the minigames, but as I said before, they're not that interesting. Look, I love checkers as much as the next guy, but I can only school this old lady so many times. The SpongeBob movie game is probably the best in terms of quality. The story and visuals are pretty solid, and even though they are retreading ground from the movie, they still make it interesting. The puzzles are a fairly decent challenge, and the minigames do add some variety. That being said, Employee of the Month is still my personal favorite, partially because of nostalgia, but also I love the original story. Lights Camera Pants had the makings of a great game, but lacks polish and is the weakest of the three. I've gotta say, it was a real treat revisiting these games. Each has its flaws, but I think they hold up pretty well. There are a couple other SpongeBob PC games that I might try out in the future. I also have some other point and click games I'd like to revisit. Depending on the reception of this video, I may make a video about my experience with them. So this has been my look at the SpongeBob point and click games. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I thank you for watching. Alright guys, bye.